that's what we're going to spend the first 5 minutes talking about instead of talking about the match. On your right, Dominic Harvey with the Antiquities Ward. That is not a typo. Left, we have David Raczka with 4-color Phoenix. Also, what's in this Phoenix deck? I don't know. We're gonna see in just a minute.
Do not adjust your computer screens. These deck names are accurate.
Yeah, this mono blue deck it's effectively a Chalice of the Void deck utilizing Master Thopterus, Trinket Mage, things of that nature. It looks really sweet, and Dominic Harvey really showcasing his deck building chops here on the SCG Tour in the first quarter of this year.
Raczka's going to start with Volcanic Island into Careful Study. That's going to resolve. Harvey is a Force of Will deck, though he's Chalice, so he's not Brainstorm. A Bloodghast to Arclight Phoenix are the discard. Harvey's going to take a look at those. Yeah. That's scary stuff.
Yeah, and Dominic Harvey, without a Master Thopterus, is going to be pretty tough to contain those threats. Now, this 4-color build of the Phoenix deck, I want to talk about this for a second because David Raczka has one of the most genius pieces of innovation I've ever seen in Land Grant. David Raczka is playing Land Grant. It's a 2-mana green sorcery. Search your deck for a forest. You may reveal it if you have no other lands in hand and cast it without paying its mana cost. It's a really insanely weird card that you usually see in the likes of a Goblin Charbelcher deck. But here in this instant, Taylor Raczka using it kind of like a color fixer as well as just a free spell for that Arclight Phoenix.
Yeah, pretty powerful stuff. Speaking of powerful stuff, though, Harvey's going to now take advantage of that Ancient Tomb. On the second turn, you see him play Cavern of Souls on Human. That'll make a blue mana. That's going to cast Sai. And here's Mox Opal. There's a Thopter token. Sai makes it pretty easy to get that Opal online quickly, though he won't be able to cast it for mana without having some other 0-mana artifact.
Now, it may seem kind of weird. This 4-color Phoenix deck is actually way more like a Sultai Phoenix deck. There's only one Volcanic Island here in the whole thing. Metamorphose can be cast for green mana. We have that lying around. But you noticeably have Careful Study instead of Faithless Looting as a way to pitch the Force Will as well as just being a little bit easier on the mana base.
Yeah. Got to imagine big part of the Volcanic Island is for the games where you sometimes cast Arclight Phoenix.
Right. Now, Metamorphose here from David is going to allow him to probably recur the Arclight Phoenix's turn. And it looks like he potentially missed the Bloodghast trigger.
Yeah, looks like that one's going to be hanging back as, David has cast a spell after making the land drop. So that will be ruled a miss trigger. But Metamorphose is going to resolve. It's like blue and black mana have been announced.
Yeah, and if he has a Cabal Therapy in hand, this misstep on that Bloodghast might be a pretty big deal.
Well, spell number 2 is Brainstorm, so he's definitely online to make Arclight Phoenix happen this turn.
Yeah, but if you notice, he doesn't actually have the Buried Alive combo in his deck list. He's playing more of a fair version of Arclight Phoenix. It uses Thing in the Ice, much like the modern version, as well as Entomb to kind of act as those additional Arclight Phoenixes. Entomb, a card that I've quite loved in these decks, and here we see it cast here for 1 mana as the 3rd spell, getting Arclight Phoenix, and then here comes an attack for 6.
Yeah, no Buried Alive, no problem. 2 Arclight Phoenixes coming back. They're going to attack for 6. Harvey is going to hang back with that Thopter, wait until he can get a double block going. He'll go to 12.
Yeah, but I mean, if you notice, David didn't actually burn that many resources on that turn. The Metamorphose cycled, drew a card. Brainstorm broke even on card advantage. And the only card he spent was the Entomb, which turned into a Phoenix. So even if the double block comes from the Master Thopterus and these tokens in a turn or two, that Arclight Phoenix very likely to come back.
I am really into this build of the 4-color Phoenix deck. I love what David has done here. One of the problems that I have with the Grixis Phoenix deck is Lotus Petal is just kind of out of place.
I agree.
It makes sense with what the deck has to do with the Dark Ritual, the Buried Alive. You need a 3rd spell on top of that. So, Lotus Petal can let you cast Brainstorm on that turn as well. But it's just such a mopey card that doesn't really check any of the necessary boxes outside of that turn 1 mana development. So David's moved off a Lotus Petal. He has that Land Grant. That's a 0-mana spell that finds you your land, so that you get plus a mana and you just get going. It's 1 of your 3 for your Phoenix. I like this deck so much.
Yeah, this is really, really cool from David, and I can't wait to try it. If you want to take a look at the full deck list, you can check it out here on our Cardboard Live extension. It's on the overlay. It also works on mobile.
Harvey's going to go to work to try to catch back up. Here's another Mox Opal. So he's going to do some clever sequencing here. Triggers the Psy. There's that second Thopter. That's the third artifact from Metalcraft. With the Mox Opal still in the stack, he used the one already on the battlefield to make a blue mana.
Yeah, and yeah, the cast trigger is the more important aspect here. Dom actually has the option if he wants to spend that blue mana to sacrifice the Mox Opal that's on the battlefield as well as one of the Thopters to draw a card.
Yeah, and that is what he's going to do. He's going to tap the Cavern of Souls for the second mana on that.
It's a really interesting sequence. Harvey really knows the inner workings of his deck.
How many games do you think he's played with this deck? Jeweled Amulet is the follow-up.
Just doesn't even just cast it, just hands it to his opponent. His opponent says, I know what that card does. What, doesn't everybody know what Jeweled Amulet does?
I've never seen a Jeweled Amulet before?
You know, here comes the judge is reading it. The judge has never seen it before. That's a new one.
See the sign out as well for Harvey. That's not casting an artifact spell, so no Thopter off of that one. Now, you may not be familiar with Jeweled Amulet because it has 100 lines of text and it's not very good.
Yeah, so if you've ever played with a charge land, those lands from Time Spiral, Jeweled Amulet is pretty similar to the charge lands, except at any time you can only remove one of the counters.
And you can only have one total counter on it as well. You can only activate the ability to charge it if it has no counter, as you see there.
Right. So it's a 0-mana artifact for Master Thopters or turning on Mox Opal, and then at some point you can put a charge counter on it, and then it acts kind of like a Lotus Petal until you charge it up again. Yeah. So a Slotus Petal, if you will.
That's a nice one.
Yeah.
Well, primarily what it does in this deck is attack for 5 off of the Antiquities War and make a Thopter off of Psy.
All right. Go back to David here, and now he's got to figure out a way to fight through the Master Thopters. I don't think Master Thopters was a card he really had on his mind when he was building this deck, and it's going to be pretty tough to grind through. However, he does have the Blood Gas, which can start chunking in at some point in the near future. And if he ever finds one of those things in the ice, could potentially be problematic for Dom Harvey.
Lad not a Ponder. He kept that one pretty quick, and there was Polluted Delta. This time gets the Blood Gas back. He'll fetch down to 18 here.
I tell you what, I'm just so remarkably impressed by David's build of this deck. Every time I think, oh, maybe he needs this thing, I just look at his deck. It's like, oh, he already thought about that, you know. And it's just such a work of art. I've been working on Arclight Phoenix for a while now, and at like every point basically that I can in all formats. And David here just really put me to shame as far as how cool this deck is.
Spell number 2 is Entomb. There's another Arclight Phoenix, most of the way to getting it back. Now, Harvey can make some Thopter tokens every turn.
Right.
But we have a third, maybe a fourth Arclight Phoenix. It's going to be really hard for Harvey to keep up with that kind of damage output.
Right. And now we're going to see a land grant here probably as the last spell cast. And he's going to use that probably to go get a second black source of mana with the Bayou. Yep, there it is. Still has Thought Scour, but he's going to save that for a future turn. Thought Scour, Careful Study, and Force of Will here to protect. And just going to start chunking in with 3 Phoenix and the Blood Gas every turn. Of course, the Blood Gas does have Summoning Sickness this turn, though.
And here you see the Arclight Phoenix is going to be coming back. Such a power move, showing your opponent, hey, I'm really far ahead on board. Also, I have Force of Will. Love that land grant.
Yeah. Land grant is just such a delightful card when it's not being used to go get the only land to play Goblin Charbelcher and a million rituals. I'll say that.
And here's an attack with the 3 Phoenixes. Harvey is going to explore his blocking options. It's tough to take too much more damage here.
Yeah, I think Harvey is basically resigned to chump and then sacking both to draw a card. With the way David's hand is stacked up right now, he can pretty easily cast 3 spells next turn.
Harvey thinking about 2 Thopters in front of 1 Phoenix, though he pretty quickly pulled those back. But that is the block it looks like he's going for. And he says damage is fine. Looks like he's not going to be drawing a card with those Thopters. He wants to actually get one of the Phoenixes off the table, at least for now.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting play. He's basically forcing David's hand on the following turn to cast 3 spells just to get back 1 Phoenix. And then chooses to sacrifice 2 of his artifacts on the battlefield, digging for any answer here. These Arclight Phoenixes are tearing him up.
Just immediately sacrificing the powerful Jeweled Amulet. Just no respect for the card.
I mean, he has more respect than any other human being on the planet because it's in his deck.
4 of them. Here's another copy. There's a Thopter token.
Yeah, any zero-mana artifact has some value alongside Psy Master Thopterus, and Jeweled Amulet at some point being able to kind of ramp you into the Antiquities War, as well as turning on Mox Opal is pretty sweet.
He'll sacrifice the Amulet and the Seat of the Synod, draw another card, definitely getting the signal that his hand needs some help here.
Yeah, considering he's sacrificed most of his mana generation, I don't think he has a whole lot going on, and even if he's able to draw it now, it might be too little too late.
Island Pass, just one Thopter token as a blocker here from 6 life. We've seen that David already had Thought Scour, Careful Study, and there's Ponder to start. He's online. He's going to make that Phoenix this turn if he wants it.
Yeah, and if he can find another graveyard-related threat, he can actually leave that in the bottom 2 cards, draw off the Ponder, and use the Thought Scour to put those 2 into the graveyard. Again, just more genius deck building here from David.
Yeah, some really cool things you can do with the sequencing. Looks like he's keeping on the Ponder. That's not a good sign either. Draws some blue card.
This version of the deck actually just makes me want to play Gurmag Angler. Maybe even over Thing in the Ice. Like, if Thing in the Ice is obviously a metagame call, it's pretty good in a lot of matchups.
I think you want something that's not weak to graveyard hate.
Yeah, and
that's
certainly a consideration.
Thought Scour was spell number 2. Careful Study is spell number 3. There's the 4th Arclight Phoenix. Harvey's seen enough.
Baby.
Going to game number 2.
Just what an impressive showing from David's deck. And on the back of all that, still had Force of Will on deck.
Yes. Yes, you saw a little bit of what both decks do. Harvey's deck showed up, did some kind of powerful stuff, but not quite enough to get it done. So we're going to go to the sideboards here. On David's side, the spice does not stop. The sideboard for David, 4 Accumulated Knowledge is where we're starting. 3 Abrupt Decay, 2 Ancient Grudge, 2 Surgical Extraction, Assassin's Trophy, Sentinel Tower. I don't even know what that card is. A Memory's Journey.
I don't either.
And a Thoughtseize.
Actually, I think Sentinel Tower was the anti-graveyard artifact.
That's Sentinel Totem.
You're right. What in the world is happening? Dude, David Raczka, an absolute genius. 4 Accumulated Knowledge on the sideboard. You know, this was for those longer matchups. I don't think they're coming in here, but I cannot wait for David to – I'm calling it now. He's making top 8 of this tournament. He might actually win the tournament. His deck is a beautiful concoction, and Accumulated Knowledge, one of the most perfect cards you can have against things like Grixis Control or the other deck, Miracles, whatever. It's fine. The rest of the sideboard here, I think he's going to want Abrupt Decay. I think he can probably sniff out Chalice of the Void, which is particularly problematic. Ancient Grudge is a no-brainer. Assassin's Trophy, probably something you want just because it can answer Weirdo Permanents, also costs 2. And again, I don't know what Sentinel Tower is, so I'm just going to leave it be. And then Thoughtseize probably comes in, just more discard against this blue deck with a bunch of weird stuff going on, you know?
Director Rob tried to tell me what Sentinel Tower does, and I told him to stop.
My brain fell to pieces when he talked in my ear.
There was a lot of text going
too
on.
Much.
We'll figure that out in a second.
We'll get it on camera in a second.
We'll figure that. I want to actually see it.
Wow.
For Dominic Harvey on his sideboard, we have 3 Flusterstorm, 2 Dismember, 2 Warping Whale, a Welding Jar, an Engineered Explosives, a Master of Ethereum. Yes, some of those main deck too. A Caracas, a Sorcerer's Spyglass, a Ratchet Bomb, a Tormod's Crypt, and another Psy Master Thopterus. What do you like here?
Well, all the anti-graveyard stuff, which there's not very much. The one Tormod's Crypt comes in. The Psy Master Thopterus comes in. Sorcerer's Spyglass, Caracas, these are not for this matchup. Ratchet Bomb, not for this matchup. Master of Ethereum might be able to close the game out, which I do kind of like. So I wouldn't mind bringing that in. Explosives, too slow. Welding Jar can maybe protect you. I don't mind that one. And then Flusterstorm, perhaps. I think there's a chance Dom actually thinks that David is still playing the Dark Ritual Buried Alive package. And if he suspects that Flusterstorm could be a big deal, he's going to bring it in. And it's still okay, but it's not nearly as impactful since David is actually doing the small ball Phoenix with just discarding it via Careful Study, milling over it with Thought Scour, as well as finding it with the Entomb.
Yeah. And I could see Flusterstorm maybe breaking up a particular land grant hand.
Right.
There's some upside there.
Oh, yeah, you reveal your hand to cast land grant, you don't have any mana. Flusterstorm is going to be quite problematic.
So we'll get you right back to Game 2 of this Clash of the Masterpieces. We're going to take a quick break here, though. That is the Ammonite backpack from Ultimate Guard. Pretty popular product. I get asked about that one a lot, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually had quite a few discussions with a few of my friends about it because as a person who travels to a lot of tournaments, security is a pretty big deal. You know, every now and then you hear whispers of, oh, my bag got taken or my deck got taken out of my bag or something. And the Ammonite backpack is just sturdy and very good at what it does. So.
For real, I'm not making this up. Between rounds, I frequently check my bag as many as 5 times.
I have started wrapping the strap like underneath the chair leg as well as around my leg. Yeah. It's not going anywhere.
No.
And with the Ammonite backpack, you actually get that anti-theft capability as well. It just adds that additional layer of protection for all these really expensive legacy cards.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, both players here. Looks like we're ready to go for game 2. Dom going to be on the play. Let's see if he has that potent turn 1 chalice draw that can really slow down David's development.
Yeah, for as much as there is to like about David's deck, Chalice of the Void does put the hurt on him. In particular, when you're relying on Entomb over Buried Alive, that is one thing to like about the card is that it costs 3.
Yeah, but, I mean, Taylor is prepared to beat Chalice of the Void. He's got 3 copies of Abrupt Decay, 2 copies of Ancient Grudge, and that Assassin's Trophy, all of which can come in. But I'm curious, Director Rob, what the heck is a Sentinel Tower?
Yeah, what is this card?
Oh, it's from Battle Bond. No wonder I have no idea.
All right, so it costs 4. It's an artifact. Whenever an instant or sorcery spell is cast during your turn, either player, Sentinel Tower deals damage to any target equal to 1 plus the number of instant or sorcery cards cast before that spell this turn. Is this a joke? Is this card good?
It lets you be Ensnaring Bridge.
Okay.
That's it.
I'm into that.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Sure. So basically it's Storm on a stick, right?
Sure.
And that's pretty cool, I guess. Dominic Harvey here. Doesn't have a turn 1 play, but does have a turn 2 Wasteland. Raczka going to respond here. Let's see what he's got.
Yeah, so once again, it was just kind of Ancient Tomb, no action. David has Underground Sea. Didn't cast anything on his turn. Thinking about a response to this Wasteland from Dominic.
Man, every time I think about land grant, it just makes me wonder, like, how much further can it be pushed, right? And, like, you can brainstorm, put all your lands back on top, and then cast land grant and go get one of the lands and shuffle. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, if a spell costs 0 and isn't literally Jeweled Amulet, there's usually the odds that are high that it's pretty good in some capacity.
Shield Sphere.
Shield Spheres, you know, you got the Glimpse of Nature deck.
Okay.
There's some stuff you can do with the 0-mana creature. The response from David was Entomb for Arclight Phoenix before the Underground Sea hit the bin.
Here it comes. We're going to see it.
Island,
unless he hits too many lands off the Brainstorm. But he's only got 13 lands in his deck. 13 actual lands.
There are 3 lands in the hand.
Yeah, I think there might actually be 4.
Oh, jeez.
Because I think he drew his swamp as well.
That happens sometimes. You hate to see it, but that is the reality.
You hate to see it, but sometimes you got to do it to him. And unfortunately, he's not able to threaten the Arclight Phoenix here with that double land grant because he's so flooded. But next turn, he can actually just shuffle away one of those lands by hard casting a land grant.
Yeah, that is
not
true.
Something you see every day as a hard cast land grant.
And part of the issue, too, with having so many lands you can't land grant was his shuffle effect. He's going to have to draw up one of those.
Right. And, I mean, he's getting hit with a Wasteland, so it's not like he can't utilize the mana. But, you know, it's not as good as it could have been.
So Harvey did establish a Tormod's Crypt, and now in his turn plays a Wasteland. That can't hit the island. He'll pass back. David plays Tropical Island and casts Land Grant for 2. You do not see that very often.
I'm going to go high-five this guy. After the match,
he deserves it.
Win or lose, he's a winner in my book.
I try not to fanboy too much over decks, but it's so rare that you see something new in Legacy that's good.
Yeah, and Arclight Phoenix has just been this injector of inspiration in both Modern and Legacy for me, as well as many other people. I mean, even today, like, I know quite a few people actually playing the kind of classic Grixis Arclight Phoenix at this point, popularized by Tommy Ashton at a team open just a few months back in, Baltimore? Oh, yeah, you won that one.
I did.
Yeah, see, I just wanted to bring that up.
Tommy Ashton did some messed up stuff in that match. There was a game where, game 3, he got wastelanded 3 times. Has a turn where from no permanence, cast Lotus Petal, Brainstorm, which is usually just like, oh, cool, he's got nothing. Resolve the Brainstorm, land, Dark Ritual, Buried Alive, attack for 9.
Huh.
It's pretty good.
It's not bad.
So David finds Bayou in this game. Dominic spends his turn just playing Seed of the Synod, just passes back. Not a lot going on either side here.
Yeah, I think David's best route to victory is going to be grinding through this Tormod's Crypt. It's going to be rather difficult because he can't really afford to put another Arclight Phoenix into the graveyard. But his hand is just kind of flooded and maybe a little mopey. So we're probably just going to see him try to cast 3 spells on the following turn. That land grant's going to get basically unlocked next turn if he's able to draw anything but a land.
Big play from Dominic. Jeweled Amulet coming down.
There it is.
Track the type of mana when you charge that one. Not going to be activating, though. He's going to start with Wasteland on the Bayou.
Wait, so if you charge a snow mana into it, do you get a snow mana? Is that how that works?
That is a great question, Todd.
Well, why did you say track the mana that went into it? If you pay a red, do you only get a red? Is that how it works?
It returns the red mana, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it have to be colored, or can it be colorless?
It can be colorless.
Okay.
You can track colorless. Yeah, you just read the card.
Get it off.
Just read the card.
Yeah, just read the card.
Just read the card.
That probably doesn't have even remotely close to the same text.
Reading the card explains the card. Cavern of Souls on Wizard.
Force of Wills to draw from David. That's actually a pretty nice pickup because Dominic Harvey's deck is rather threat light. And if he ever goes for something like the Antiquities War, David does have a backup card here to make sure that he's doing okay.
Underground Sea pass for David, and Dominic's charging the Amulet, firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, just put a blue under it, man. It's kind of, come on.
At any time, he can tap that to remove that counter and make a blue mana.
Right. Chalice of the Void to draw for Dominic Harvey. I believe that was going to cast for X equals 1. Notably, Flusterstorm actually can be played through the Chalice of the Void, so a little bit of deck synergy there, which is pretty neato.
It is certainly better than Spell Pierce in that kind of setup, for sure. You counter the actual original copy, but your Storm copies are not countered because they are not cast.
Right.
And here is Chalice on 1. He'll pay 2 life for that off the Ancient Tomb.
Now, whatever David's got going on here, he needs to start firing stuff off because this Chalice of the Void is going to be problematic. He actually hits an Arclight Phoenix off the Thought Scour. I'm curious if he wants to burn this Force of Will. Chooses not to or doesn't have the capability to. Unsure.
Yeah, Chalice on 1 resolves, and it is kind of notable that he doesn't really want that second Phoenix in the graveyard because Harvey just has Tormod's Crypt uncracked.
Yeah. Looted Delta here. I would actually love it if David actually just hard cast an Arclight Phoenix from hand and started attacking.
It would be better than having him in the graveyard right now, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Polluted Delta is the 4th land and passing. That's not anything. Back on Harvey's side, see if he can get something like an Antiquities War established. He already has 4 artifacts on the battlefield.
You know, I'm not 100%. The first land they got Wastelanded might have been a volcanic island.
Okay, there is only 1 in the deck.
Right, and because he's effectively a...
No, it was Underground Sea, entombed in response to the Wasteland.
Oh, you're right.
Yep.
He is effectively just a Sultai Phoenix deck, splashing that red just so he can hardcast Phoenix.
Psy Master Thopterist has showed up to play. Harvey to 16 off the Ancient Tomb.
It looks like David is getting super flooded here in his 13-land deck. He's been wastelanded twice, but, you know, just has all the lands in his deck just about in hand in battlefield.
Plays Swamp. He'll fetch to 19. I believe we're going to see that hard cast Arclight Phoenix here. There's Volcanic Island.
Yeah, might as well. At the very least, you can start making that Psy Master Thopterist chump block, you know.
Taps 4 of those 5 lands. Thinking about which one to leave behind. Lands on Tropical Island. Here's Arclight Phoenix. Attack for 3. Harvey to 13.
Yeah, while this is not the best showing for David's deck, you have to understand he's trying to navigate around the card Tormod's Crypt, that anti-graveyard artifact on the other side of the battlefield. It's kind of stifling a lot of his potential development.
Big tap for Harvey here. He'll use the Ancient Tomb to 11. Cast Antiquities War. This one catches the Force of Will.
Yeah, so it catches the Force Will, but that Force Will is going to catch a Flusterstorm. And even through the Chalice of the Void, it's going to create multiple copies, and those are going to take down the Force Will.
Yep, so 2 Storm copies. The Flusterstorm proper is countered. One of those copies is checked by this Tropical Island, but that last one, that's going to catch the Force of Will.
Yeah, and now we get Chapter 1 of Antiquities War, which is, of course, looking at the top 5 cards, reveal an artifact, put in your hand. Second, same. Third, they all become huge.
5 5s.
David here, this might be a little too much for him.
Yeah, I mean, this is lethal in 2 turns. Plenty of artifacts. Mox Opal is the find off of Chapter 1.
Now the need to be randomized, put on the bottom, much like Vivian Reed, common occurrence in Standard. Antiquities War also in Standard, but not doesn't come up as much.
Yeah, don't see that one. Mox Opal is cast then. Thopter token made. Psi attacks. It's very relevant 1 point of damage. David down to 17.
I mean,
it's not blocking.
Gets to 17, right? But he can get him down to 15 next turn with an attack by a Thopter and the Psi Master Thopters.
That is true.
And that means only 3 of those artifact creatures that are 5/5s need to connect next turn.
Yeah, worth noting that Harvey was at 11 as well, so Bloodghast didn't have haste, so you're not really playing around anything by leaving Psi home.
Right.
Phoenix does bump Harvey to 8 here, though, and we'll go back Harvey's way. Chapter 2 on the Antiquities War.
Yeah, this one is effectively over, I believe.
A correction on life totals there. The Thopter actually jumped in front of the Phoenix. Harvey's staying at 11. Finds another Chalice of the Void off the Antiquities War.
It's good to have. That way you don't just get blown out by any one thing. And if he decides to play it for X equals 2, that'll lock down a lot of the ways that the Phoenix deck has to get off the battlefield, those Ancient Grudges specifically, but chooses to just play around Abrupt Decay instead, which there are 3 copies of likely from David's side of things.
Yeah, second copy on 1. Thopter token off the side. Harvey very well set up here. We are on the next turn going to see Chapter 3 of the Antiquities War. David will attack with the Phoenix. Harvey will once again block with the Thopter. Stay at 11. And David does not need to see Chapter 3. He knows how this story ends.
Yeah. I mean, if you read the book once, you've read it a million times. That particular book just, the ending's the same.
There's a reasonable chance that that's the first time that David has had the Antiquities War specifically cast against him. But it is reminiscent of Tezzeret the Seeker.
Kind of, yeah. Well, it's actually a combination of 2 different Tezzerets, right? The Agent of Bolus has the tick up ability to look at the top 5, take an artifact, right? It's kind of like a tick up, tick down scenario on 2 smushed together Tezzerets. It's a really powerful card, and obviously in that scenario, you saw Dominic Harvey win quite easily once he cast it, was able to find a backup Chalice of the Void to potentially lock David out, even if he was able to find that Abrupt Decay. But also just acting as a really powerful win condition that closes the game once you've established control with either Psi Master Thopterus or Chalice of the Void.
So players have now seen a bit more of each other's decks.
Right.
David now has a much better idea of what Harvey's up to, though game 1, you saw enough to get the general theme. Both players seem to be looking at their sideboards. Do you think a lot is going to change going into this game?
Not really, though there's a chance that David actually didn't side in a ton of those disenchant effects. I mean, you look over across the table, your opponent plays frickin' Jeweled whatever.
Amulet.
Jeweled Amulet, and you think, man, do I want to bring an Ancient Grudge? Like, is that it? Is that the deck?
You're right.
You know? It's a Psi Master Thopterus deck, right? You know, but I think here, now that he knows more of what's in Dom's deck, he's going to bring in Grudge, Decay, Sass's Trophy, and maybe even Sentinel Tower. I mean, that game alone, he could have dealt quite a bit of damage. Dom was at 11, and it might be a really potent way to get out from underneath the Psi Master Thopterus.
Yeah, David definitely was not shy on mana to cast a tower. Can tell you that much about that game. But for Dominic Harvey, we may as well start calling him Dominant Harvey. He's very near the top of the leaderboard, just crushing it this season. You see, we go back to 2018, not looking at any results, but you see 2 open top 8s with a win this season. Some innovations on Amulet of Vigor in Modern, and now Jeweled Amulet in Legacy.
Yeah, I mean, the team finals, or the Open where his team made the finals, followed by a win the next weekend in Modern, really skyrocketed him to the top of the leaderboard, and you can see he's having a killer year so far, looking to keep it up and potentially snag one of those spots for the Players' Championship later this year.
A 26-year-old from Toronto, coming down from Canada.
Eh?
Bit of a haul making it out on the tour, but always a pleasure to watch him play, and I don't think that anybody was expecting this deck.
I do not either, but I also don't think anyone was expecting this 4-color Phoenix deck from David's side either. So 2 very unique decks in the feature match here, and we'll see which one comes out in a still 4-0 after the end of this round.
It almost feels like this is a lot of what Legacy was in like 2010 and before that, where people just kind of showed up with whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the beauty of Legacy is the card pool is so deep that you can do basically whatever you want as long as you have Brainstorm in your deck. And that mantra is not quite true here, as Dominic Harvey is very unlikely to be playing Brainstorm in his Chalice of the Void deck. But
not great in the Chalice deck, yeah. David's on the play for game number 3. Island Ponder is where he'll start. Giving this one a lot of pause, very flavorful.
Yeah, and it looks like the top is pretty decent as a Manamorphose, another Ponder, and another red card that might have been an Ancient Grudge, and that could help him fight off things like Chalice of the Void from Dom's side.
Yeah, so it's 3 spells, 2 of them are redraws, so his hand must be missing something if it's a consideration to shuffle here.
Right.
He does keep it, though. It draws the Ponder this turn.
So if Dom here has turn 1 Chalice, David might actually just not have a second mana source. That could be a pretty big deal.
Yeah, if the Ponder has to find a land, you just get Chaliced on one. We haven't seen Harvey do it yet, but that is really the most powerful thing this deck can do.
No, we saw Chalice on one last game, but it was just a Entomb cast in response, right?
It was not on turn 1, was it?
What was the turn 1 play?
Oh, maybe it was turn 1. Okay.
No. It was a Wasteland on. It was a pass.
Yeah, Wasteland,
and
you then Chalice
and
on.
then a Chalice.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was pretty sure, but yeah, I always get rattled when someone second guesses me.
Well, my bad.
Island Jewel Amulet, pretty much the same power level as that Ponder there. Don't give you this one in standard either.
All right, David here. Let's see what he can cobble together. He can start off here with a land grant. Looks like he's got that tilted to the front of his hand. His hand looks pretty stacked. A Force of Will. Ooh, we get to see it here. Ancient
Ponder.
Grudge, Ponder, Force of Will, Arclight, Manamorphose, Thought Scour. That's a nice one.
Yeah, and the land grant does resolve. It's going to find Bayou.
Yeah, notably that helps him get green mana for Manamorphose. Of course, having that split card. We see it more in red-based combo-style decks. But here, the green mana being utilized nicely.
So this hand missing a way to definitively put an Arclight Phoenix in the graveyard.
Right, but quite a few hits.
Yep, some good redraws. Having that Grudge is going to insulate him against Chalice of the Void. Some things to like here. The Force of Will as well, pretty powerful.
David here going to lead off with a Manamorphose, more than likely. My guess naming Blue. He has that Ponder.
Draws land grant.
That's a nice one. And now, if I were David, I would actually land grant first, I think. But,
so it was double blue and Ponder. Careful Study, Thinking the Ice, Entomb.
That is a nice one. That Careful Study is going to allow him to get that Phoenix on the battlefield right now. Assuming that Dom obviously doesn't have a Flusterstorm here. If Dom has a Flusterstorm, this might be a prime time to pop it off. Chooses not to.
Keeping the Phoenix out of the graveyard would make sense. The discard is Ancient Grudge, Arclight Phoenix. Arclight Phoenix comes back. That's going to attack Harvey down to 17. He'll charge the Jeweled Amulet.
Now, I'll say this. Not in love with discarding Ancient Grudge, just because if Dominic Harvey finds a Tormod's Crypt here, he can cast it and pop it, and then you have the land grant to potentially find that red mana source if you need it.
Yeah.
He's exposing himself a little bit here. I would have loved to discard maybe Entomb if he has Entomb. I think there was an Entomb drawn off of the Careful Study. But let's see if David can piece it together here and come up with a victory nonetheless.
Darksteel Citadel, Chalice on 1. That resolves. No action with the Force of Will from David.
Yeah, I mean, he has the Ancient Grudge in the graveyard. He can flash it back for just 1 mana to take care of the Chalice.
Cast that Thing in the Ice.
I love this play. The odds that Dom has any spot removal in his deck is virtually zero because of how these Arclight Phoenixes kind of recur over time. And that thing in the ice can protect him from a Side Master Thopterus.
Yeah, huge check on that one. And then Land Grant, thing in the ice down to 3 counters. These are 2-mana spells that Chalice on 1's not putting the hurt on that in any way. Finds Tropical Island off the Grants, reveals that his hand has picked up Thoughtseize, as well as Entomb that Harvey had not seen.
Yeah, he's going to go ahead and make sure he can protect himself from that Tormod's Crypt, holding up green mana so at any point he can pop off that Chalice.
Maintaining Thought Scour Force of Will, so that one is live. Here's an attack from the Arclight Phoenix, Harvey to 14.
I kind of like going ahead and casting the Ancient Grudge here so that if Dom does have Fluster, he needs to utilize the mana off of that Jeweled Marble, whatever.
Amulet.
Whatever, man.
It's an
I will
amulet
never
deck.
look unless Dominic Harvey ends up like getting on camera again. I'm never gonna have to say that card name ever again.
Dominic showed me his deck at the beginning of the day, and I was really surprised to hear that he won round 3.
Because he has 2 buys, of course.
Yes. But so far, so good for Dominic Harvey. He needs to find a way out of this one. He's under pretty significant pressure in this match.
Now, Dominic Harvey actually has a killer sideboard card here. He has Warping Whale. Warping Whale is not normally that good against Arclight Phoenix, but Dominic can utilize that to take care of things like Bloodghast, but notably, this thing in the ice is vulnerable to it too.
Now, Harvey knows about that face-up Force of Will. He's casting second Chalice of the Void, and because David discarded that Ancient Grudge, that can only check one of these Chalices on 1.
Yeah, that was kind of my logic for wanting it there, but in this spot, he's still fine. You know, he has the Force of Will for the Warping Whale. He has another thing in the ice off the top, and even though the Chalice of the Voids do counter those 1-mana spells, they still trigger thing in the ice.
Another Jeweled Amulet for Harvey back on David's side. He'll attack with Arclight Phoenix. I believe Harvey falling to 11, and there's that second thing in the ice.
Yeah, this is bad news for Dom. Normally one of your best cards here is Side Master Thopterus, and just doesn't look like it's going to be good enough here in the face of these things in the ice.
And even though those Chalice Void counter those spells, as you mentioned, those things can still transform. There's a few 1-mana spells already in the hand. David a little bit choked on black mana to fire off, the Entomb and the Thoughtseize, but he has that Bayou untapped. He could Entomb and step into Thoughtseize on his turn and cast all that stuff.
Yeah, these Chalices are locking that down, but they do just trigger the things in the ice, and that's what you want, is you want raw triggers.
Yeah, currently, 2 Woken Horrors would be lethal. Harvey needs something big to turn this one around. Looks like there's a Master of Ethereum in the hand for Harvey. Third Jeweled Amulet. Does that resolve?
Is that a good one?
It does. He passes back. Entomb and step. Chalice of the Void triggers. That's countered. Thing in the ice is to 2 and 3 counters. David draws for turn.
Now, Dominic actually has the ability to win a fight here, I think, over the thing in the ice. If David just kind of expends a bunch of resources here to transform the one with 2 counters, Dom can go for a Warping Whale, and in turn, David will Force Will, and then Dom can Flusterstorm back. And even though the original gets countered by the Chalice of the Void, the additional copies, again, do not.
David's going to give this one a think. He has the possibility to turn up the heat with the thing in the ice, though Harvey's already at 11. And yeah, he's just going to attack with Arclight Phoenix again. Harvey down to 8.
This kind of gives you some protection from Side Master Thopterus, right? If Dom, you don't know what's in Dom's deck. Dom could have a million different things. He's got Jeweled Amulet.
Nailed it.
Again, Jeweled Amulet, all right?
And Harvey will charge the second and third copy.
One of them will only produce colorless, but, was colorless mana even a thing when that card was printed?
Yeah, colorless mana has always been a thing. Soul Rings in Alpha.
Oh, you're right. I don't know why. I was thinking maybe the first colorless land was Wasteland or something weird. No, but it was Mistress Factory. I'm stupid. Don't mind me. I'm over here just being a dum-dum.
Just some really amusing colorless lands from way back in the day. Library of Alexandria actually taps for a colorless mana. That card's messed up.
Look, temporary brain malfunction.
It happens to everybody. Yeah, mark that colorless and that blue. So now, Harvey untapping 2 lands with the 3rd land to see to the side nod, 3 charged amulets, so up to 6 mana this turn. What can he do with it? There's
Master of Ethereum. That's a big boy, but it still gets bounced by Thing in the Ice.
doesn't block Arclight Phoenix either.
Yeah.
He'll pass back.
Dom does technically have access to 3 mana, including one of the colorless mana that he actually needs to cast Warping Wail.
David's side, he'll play Underground Sea before thinking about attacking or transforming. Looks like there's a land grant in the hand now. There's Ancient Grudge on Master of Ethereum. Starts with that, so neither of the things will be transforming. But Harvey's going to hold him there with those triggers on the stack. He's going to use the counters on the colorless and the blue jeweled amulet. Here's Warping Wail on the 2-counter Thing in the Ice.
Now, I'm not sure exactly what's in David's hand, but if he has just 2 instants that he can play right now, he has the ability to transform the Thing in the Ice, which will effectively invalidate the Warping Wail's ability. He starts with a Force of Will, pitching a Thought Scour, but I don't know if he actually has another instant that he can cast here. Looks like Land Grant, Thoughtseize are the last 2 remaining cards in the hand. So if Dominic goes for this Flusterstorm, we have how many spells cast this turn, right? We have the Ancient Grudge, the Warping Wail, the Force of Will, and then Flusterstorm. But the Flusterstorm gets countered. David could actually just pay 3.
Yeah.
This is a disaster for Dominic.
It does not look good. So David went to 19 off the Force of Will. We're still holding. There are 2 triggers on both Thing and the Ices. Yeah, so that looks like we have the Ancient Grudge resolving. 1 thing has been awoken. Arclight Phoenix is picked up. The other thing down to 1 counter. Land Grant, and that's going to do it here. David's going to pick up the win over Dominic Harvey. 4-color Phoenix.
Yeah, just a lot of really intricate, strange rules interactions there, but 4-color